Hi all, thank you for listening to Human Monsters. I also want to thank those of you who donate to the Patreon account. There will be more rewards coming down the pipe, such as giveaways. From now on, every week, a winner will be drawn from the Patreon pool and will receive a psychic reading from me online. I am a card reader and astrologer, and I will do a reading for you online should your name be chosen. Once again, the Patreon link is www.patreon.com/leader1 www.patreon.com/leaderone. Thank you and enjoy the show. All right, welcome everybody to this week's segment of True Crime News. I'm Morgan Rector.
I am Rachel Telfor.
And I have a couple announcements before we start. I've been doing readings for members of the Patreon donor pool, and some people have requested them despite not being chosen. So I'm announcing now that if you want a reading, and you're willing to pay, I'll pay You can pay $25, which is cheaper than what you normally pay with most psychics, but because you're a listener of the show and or a donor to the Patreon account, I'll do it for that price. And then, and by the way, I am aware some people, that's not their cup of tea. They don't believe in it. You just don't need to say so on the YouTube comments, all right?
What are you talking about? Everyone has to say everything they think, Morgan. Come on.
Oh, yeah, even if it's the most toxic thing that comes into their head, right?
Although some people have been really nice, and I appreciate that.
That is true, yes. Anyway, the next one concerns the Human Monsters t-shirts. So there is a link you can go to at leader1studios.com, and it's on the front page. You go down, there's a few links that are descending, and one of them is for Human Monsters merchandise. So you click there and you can order a shirt, and then I take care of the fulfillment. If it doesn't ask you for an address, then I'll contact you and get your snail mail address. So if you don't win a shirt but you want a shirt, you can go about it that way. And so without any further ado, I'll start off our show with this first story.
Oh, we have a story you're going. But wait, I want to say something real quick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I got a shirt from my lovely host, Morgan, and I'm somebody who lives in Florida, so it's super hot. So I cut the neck out of all my t-shirts. So if you saw that, sorry, but I do that to every single t-shirt I buy. I freaking love it, and I wore it to Publix so proudly last week, and like made sure that it was very visible so everyone could look at it and notice it. I'm waiting for somebody to notice it and listen to the podcast, and I'm gonna have like a moment of fangirl yayness. We'll see how it goes.
Well, yeah, that's what it's partially been about, so that
I
can create human billboards, right? You can walk around, and because my motivation to do it about t-shirts rather than something like a coffee mug or some other little knickknack is that when I was in high school, this guy I knew, he had a t-shirt from a business called Tint King. They tint windows for cars. And the reason I know about Tin King is because this guy wore their t-shirt. And I remember that, and I thought that's a good way to promote things. A lot of people will not turn down a free t-shirt.
Yep, and I should, you know what? I should make it, I wear my Human Monster t-shirt every time I go to Publix. Although I go a lot, so I might need a couple more.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you cut it that way, and lots of people do alter their t-shirts. Some people will cut off the sleeves, you know.
Yeah. Make it your own.
Yeah. So my first story is, guess which state this story took place in.
Are you gonna come down south to me? I'm gonna assume it's Florida if you're gonna say
Yeah.
any state in the United States and it's messed
Uh,
up in true crime.
yeah. Well, that's what I make a point of stating which state it was. So here's the headline: Man arrest. Now, it couldn't possibly get any more Floridian if it took place at Walt Disney World, which
Oh,
it
I
didn't.
can't wait.
So, man arrested for throwing a live alligator into the Wendy's drive-through window. So there are a few things alligators do well: chomping on stuff, looking like dinosaurs, and gliding around in swamps, marshes, and the like. They are not good at flying, however, and as such should not be tossed carelessly into the drive-through window at Wendy's. A Florida man was arrested recently for allegedly attempting to do just such a thing. While it's unclear whether he was asking employees to cook up the reptile, a Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission incident report says the man heaved the gator into a Wendy's restaurant in Royal Palm Beach last October. Is that near you, Royal Palm Beach?
Royal Palm Beach, other side of the state, so about 2.5 hours away.
Okay, so this reported by WPTV. The suspect was only just taken into custody by U.S. Marshals recently, however. Officials say the 23-year-old man had pulled up to grab his order and a server handed him a drink. When the worker turned around, the man allegedly reached into the back of his truck and threw the 3.5-foot alligator through the open window where it landed inside the restaurant. So it must have been like a very young alligator,
I was
right?
just gonna say, yeah, it's not very big.
Yeah. Because I think like aren't the adults like 9, 10 feet long?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah.
Or they can get bigger. They're getting a little out of control here lately.
And I think don't they weigh like 300 or 400 pounds fully grown?
Yeah,
They're
they
pretty.
can't. They can weigh more. That I mean, we have everywhere from juveniles to granddaddies. So they you're saying a 3 foot gator. I'm just like, that's not that bad. I'd probably laugh at that, but I'm so used to being around them that
Yeah, yeah.
it's odd.
Law enforcement say the suspect admitted to picking up the alligator by the side of the road and bringing it with him to Wendy's. The gator was later released into a nearby canal to go about his day, while the customer is facing charges of aggravated assault and unlawful possession and transportation of an alligator. The laws around alligators are pretty serious and strict in Florida, aren't they?
Um, th- if you're hurting one or using it in that type of a scenario, then yeah. But I mean, we also, I do believe, have you're able to hunt them in certain seasons. So it just depends what, I mean, you're not obviously allowed to throw, it's not legal to throw a gator inside of a Wendy's drive-through. But, you know, if they're a nuisance in a public area, you have to call FCW, which is Florida, the Florida Wildlife Commission or um but yeah, then I think we're allowed to hunt them because if not, they can become a nuisance
Well, I know you can
for
buy
deer and
clothes
stuff.
from alligator boots and
Have you ever
alligator.
had gator?
I never eaten it. Well, my mother once worked at a Cajun themed restaurant that once a year would serve alligator meat because I know that's served in the bayou in New Orleans. I don't know if they eat it all the time or not, but Louisiana does have a lot of alligators.
Yes, they do.
In
It's
fact, I
actually
think,
pretty good.
yeah, well, I think that I think like in the aftermath of Katrina, one thing that became a big danger was that it was flooded and the gators started moving in, so they had to be very careful not to be attacked by them, though they do tend to avoid people. But
Not any. They do, but now they're getting very comfortable, and plus they're being pushed out of their natural habitat. So we're building in Florida around all these estuaries, and then people want to get mad because there's gators showing up at your front door. I'm like, you're living in an estuary. This is where they live. So don't
well,
be surprised when there's alligators showing up at your door.
well, people
They were here first. So
people keep feeding them,
yeah, I
and
was
then they.
just gonna say, like, I don't know if throwing them in the Wendy's is probably a good idea because now he might have a taste for Wendy's.
Oh
He
yeah,
might be drawn to it.
yeah. So they people keep feeding them, and they're building condos or whatever they're building, and yeah, pushing them out of their natural habitat. And
Yeah, please don't feed the gators. I think I've said that before. Or seagulls. Do not feed gators or seagulls.
well, they can adapt to it because I think they lay a lot of eggs when they do give birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So what's your What's your first story? Actually?
My first story, funny enough, is also a Florida story. So sorry, I'm trying not to say people yelled at me about that. So this is St. Johns County, Florida. This is a new story. It popped up on my feed, and then I tried to do a little more research. There's not that much out because it is so new, but I immediately clicked on it because I was like, holy cow, this is crazy Florida stuff. So 1 week ago in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday, May 9th, so about a week ago, Tristan Bailey was last seen alive at the Durban Amenity Center. Tristan Bailey is a female. By 10 a.m., she had been reported missing. Tristan was a seventh grade student at Patriot Oaks County in St. Augustine, so that's north of me. She lived in a quiet area of St. Johns County. She was a member of a First Coast cheerleading community. She had already won awards. Her coaches recognized her as a leader with a dedicated work ethic and lively personality. That Sunday afternoon, about 12 hours after she had last been seen, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office sent out a notice on social media saying Tristan was missing, urging people to keep an eye out for her. Unfortunately, later that evening, her body was found in a wooded area near a retention pond in her Durban neighborhood. On Monday, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office held a press conference announcing announcing that 14-year-old Aiden Fucci had been arrested and charged with Tristan's murder. Yes, 14-year-old Aiden Fucci.
Was
Fucci
this?
attended, 14.
So I was about to ask. Do they know if there's like a sexual component to that crime, or is this violent?
So I'll get to that later in the story, but first thing I asked as well. Fucci attended Patriot Oaks Academy with Tristan and lived in the same neighborhood. Classmates also reported Tristan and Aiden were friends. By Monday evening, there were still questions, including the cause of death and how exactly Fucci was linked to the crime. The sheriff's office asked for the time to focus on the case. The parents were mourning the loss of Tristan, and they're trying to provide comfort for the family. Apparently, during this case, there was a lot of confusion, misinformation, and troubling, misleading posts on social media. I'm sure we all know how that wormhole can go. So when
Yeah.
stuff gets out and then people want to go on social media and then start posting shit that is just not being helpful to when you're investigating a crime like this.
Oh yeah.
They have to kind of look into everything. So if you're posting shit that's not true, it's just don't do that. Anyway, Tuesday morning, less than 48 hours after Tristan was reported missing, Fucci appeared for his initial court hearing. He was read the charge of second-degree murder and his rights. Circuit Judge Michael Orfinger then ordered Fucci to remain in the juvenile detention center for at least 21 days or until his detention is extended by the court. During Fucci's court appearance, the sheriff's office announced that Tristan had been stabbed to death. It was later revealed the 13-year-old girl had been stabbed more than once, and the state attorney's office confirmed it. They also noted that Tristan had been found with her clothes on, and there was no indication that she had been sexually assaulted, despite rumors saying she had. Later on Tuesday, First Coast News obtained the arrest report for Fucci, giving the last insight into how investigators linked the 14-year-old to her death. He had changed his story multiple times. He'd made several admissions, that was in quotes, when investigators were interviewing him. They were able to get a hold of him on a security video. They don't know if it was him. It showed two teens walking east on Saddlestone Drive, which is a road that they live by, around 1:45 a.m., although I don't know why 13 and 14-year-olds are out at 1:45 a.m. That's just mom and me. The arrest report says the video later showed that one person walking west, so coming back around 3:27 a.m., holding a pair of shoes. So there's two going east at 1:45, and then one coming west at 3:27. It's a lot of time.
Mm.
After acquiring a search warrant, investigators found an outfit consistent with what was captured on the video that the person was wearing. Traces of blood were also found on his clothes. So since his arrest, many people have called for Fucci to be charged as an adult. He is faced with he was faced with a second degree. They want him to be faced with a first degree murder charge, but Florida law leaves it up to the state attorney's office to decide if children are to be tried as an adult under discretionary criteria. Murder does not meet the criteria for him to be charged as an adult. The state's attorney's office told First Coast News that they had been bombarded with phone calls urging the office to charge Fucci as an adult. Furthermore, there was a petition on change.org. I think there was like over 600,000 signatures last they shown that was demanding he be charged as an adult. However, we will not know as of today. It was unclear if he's going to be charged as an adult, so we're going to have to wait for his first appearance. Last but not least, there is a GoFundMe page available for people wishing to help Tristan Bailey's family. And Tristan, if you want to Google that, is Tristyn. And poor girl, poor family. It's some young kids. But interesting that I want to know more about what his motive was there if he's 14.
Yeah, I have to admit, whenever I hear like a woman or girl has been murdered, I always assume that there is a sexual component. And it's actually, if there wasn't, it actually seems like the offender may be much crazier and more evil than previously assumed. I mean,
You're going exactly to where it's funny because your mind is going exactly where my mind goes as soon as I read the stories, because that was the first thought in my head. And then when I read that there was no sexual, appeared to be, so we don't know that for sure, but all right, is this 14-year-old kid crazy? Is he jealous? Did she do something to piss him off? Is he just taking it out on her? But they knew each other. There's all kinds of questions that pop up in my head here. But we'll see how that unfolds. Like
most serial killers, they targeted the kind of people that they would have liked to have sex with. The gay ones targeted men, the heterosexuals targeted women. But but not many of them simply killed someone with just violence and no sexuality involved. That seems to be kind of a rarity.
Yeah. Also, and then him being charged as an adult, I kind of don't know where I stand with that either. He's so young, and I would need to know a lot more about the reasons for the murder before I made an opinion on that. So.
Well, I think the average kid that age knows the difference between right and wrong, and if they don't, probably mentally ill. So if they commit a really heinous crime like that, I think they should be charged as adults. I don't think it's an excuse to use the age. It's just like did you see that documentary series on Netflix to Making a Murder?
Yes, that infuriated me.
Well, they talked about how when he was like 15, he was with some friends and he dipped like a cat in some oil and lit it on fire.
Yeah.
I thought I wouldn't have done that when I was that age. That's really sick.
It is. However, we also don't know his childhood. We don't know where he came from. So there's all kinds of factors in there. And murder is murder for sure. But this is just a little bit too early in this case for me to have a solid opinion on whether he should be charged as an adult with a first degree. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe they'll go for an insanity plea because
it could be. You never know.
All right, my next story. This is an interesting one because.
Are we getting out of Florida for a second?
Oh, there's no Florida in this one. This is in Jersey, actually.
Okay, good.
Excuse me. Now this.
I mean, not good, but.
Well, this doesn't actually involve like a macabre crime having been committed. This falls more under the rubric of creepy. And this one, you could actually make a really chilling movie out of this because it's all about psychological horror. So that's what
I was watching all weekend. You must have been reading my mind.
Well, the headline is Bring Me Young Blood, the creepy threats of the Westfield Watcher. So earlier this month, a couple named Derek and Maria Brodus filed a lawsuit in Union County, New Jersey, alleging their home's former owners had failed to warn them about a local individual who calls him or herself the Watcher. The Watcher allegedly sent the Broduses 3 letters last summer in which he or she threatened the couple and their 3 young children. The entire family has since vacated their home, located in the town of Westfield, in fear for their safety. Below you'll find the disturbing contents of the letters revealed in court papers so far.
So they wrote, so let me catch up. So somebody wrote this family letters that forced them to leave their home, correct?
Yeah, they don't know if it's just a prank or
Okay.
if somebody really wishes to do them harm, but
Huh.
this is the first letter.
Oh God.
According to the lawsuit, the Watcher began their correspondence with the Broduses in a letter dated June 4th, 2014, a few days after the plaintiffs closed the sale of the house. A key theme appears to be the Watcher's familial connection to the Broduses' home. The couple's house, quote, has been the subject of my family for decades. I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming.
What the?
My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. In the same letter, they wrote, they threatened plaintiffs and their children, saying, now that they have it to flaunt it, they pay the price. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad move. You don't want to make the 657 Boulevard unhappy. I asked the Woods, the previous owners, to bring me young blood. Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. The Watcher also asked the couple, why are you here? I will find out. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Pretty creepy, right?
I think I remember this story. It sounds very familiar, but yes, that's very creepy.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've lived in apartments most of my life, but I have
Yes.
lived in houses. There's something about houses that's actually much scarier than living in apartments because,
Absolutely 100%. I've lived in a what I believe to be a haunted house.
yeah, and if you've ever been in a house in the country, it's got that serial killer silence. Like,
Yeah, we lived on 50 acres when I was born in Michigan.
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big farmhouse, two-story farmhouse with like a creepy basement. Nobody in Florida knows what basements are, but holy hell. Not like a basement, a cellar. It was just like a dank, dark cellar, which we had to go down there for when tornadoes came. I think I'd almost rather be in the tornado, to be honest, because it was creepy as it's creepy as hell.
Well,
We had an old barn. It was perfect setup for a a serial killer movie. I kind of wish we still lived there. The house is actually no longer there, it burnt down, but it was so badass as a child to have that much space to run around. But yeah, looking back, I'm like, that was creepy as hell. Who even knows what happened at that house?
what was it, like a Victorian house or something?
It was just an old farmhouse, two-story farmhouse. Had those little the windows that open, the two pane windows that opened up at the top, and just
Yeah,
just an old country home. It was
like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house.
yeah, yeah. Bunch of trees around, big old barn out back.
And it's so silent out in the country at night that I
Yeah.
worry, I worry less about being killed in the city than I do out there at night. Because for one thing, someone could kill you in the middle of the woods and they'd get away with it, right? So
I don't know. I probably feel safer in the wood. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good point. Shit.
yeah, who's going to witness it? A deer, a bear? I mean,
There's all kinds of noises that you could think are killers out in the woods, though.
yeah, yeah. All right, so the second and third letters appeared dated June 18th and of the 2014, and they go as, have you found what it is in the walls yet? In
Hmm.
time they will. I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. Have you found all the secrets it holds? Will the young bloods play in the basement? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom, then I can plan better. All the windows and doors in 657 Boulevard allow me to watch you. and track you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the Watcher, and have been in control of 657 Boulevard for the better part of 2 decades now.
Yeah,
The
I'd be
Wood,
out.
yeah, the Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on, and kindly sold it when I asked them to.
No, I'm out.
Made it
Yeah, I'm
so
out. I'm
it
out.
cries.
Bye.
It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls, when I ran from room to room, imagining the life with the rich occupants there, and now I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again.
Ugh.
657 Boulevard is turning on me. It is coming after me. I am in charge of 657 Boulevard. Let the young blood play again like I once did. Stop changing it and let it alone. You know what? I call bullshit because they didn't actually mention anyone's name. They didn't mention anything specific about
Exactly.
rated. So I think it's all a ruse. It's a prank, but I can understand uh, taking it seriously. And like I said, being out in the country at night, you can get scared. So if a skunk steps on a stick outside, I can certainly.
Skunk steps on.
Right?
That was a good one.
Yeah,
Ooh, I'm looking at a picture of it right now. Yeah, I mean, it's a big house.
yes. Must be a
Could be creepy. It could be pretty creepy. There's a lot of windows.
jealous person wants the house, and I guess they decide if they can't have it, nobody will.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh.
All right. So what's your next story?
Oh, let's see. Okay, so this one is happened in a Delaware recent story happened in a Delaware prison. So we're gonna just go ahead and start right in prison.
Prison horror stories.
There's no horror stories in prison. What are you talking about?
I've done 2 episodes, prison horror stories.
You have. I have listened to both of them. They
Yeah,
were
so
very, very good.
as
They
of
were
now,
actually two of my favorite episodes. I appreciate those. Do more. I like them.
yeah, so we got another one.
Yeah, just so you guys know, if you hate my voice and me and think you don't have to listen to this segment,
Oh, her
because Morgan
voice.
still does his show, which I also enjoy not listening to my voice and listening to just him.
It's like Bob Dylan playing electric after being a folk singer. A lot of people don't like change,
They
but
just don't.
variety
But
is the spice of life, right?
exactly. We still have solo Morgan on our humo, so don't worry, guys.
Exactly.
All right, so this is I listed it Delaware prison, don't be a pedo. Okay, so a prison inmate was murdered. I'm sorry, a prison inmate murdered his convicted child rapist cellmate on Monday, the Delaware State Police announced Wednesday. At face value, a conviction would not change very much for defendant John Cameron, 55. He's already serving a life prison sentence for first-degree murder. Troopers responded to the James T. Vaughn Correctional Center in the town of Smyrna at about 8:13 a.m. on Monday. Police said authorities determined that Camera killed Philip Langell, 69. So the story I read said Langell was serving a 20-year sentence for the first degree rape. It said of a child under 12,
Mhm.
12 or under. So I, of course, had to Google and find out because that mattered for some reason. I had to know that it was a first degree rape of a 4-year-old girl.
Oh man.
He was arrested in 2013 for the crime that happened in Brookside a decade earlier. So it took them a decade to even find him. So anyway, had to put that in there. Langell died at the scene from injuries to the head and neck and from asphyxiation, police said. Wounds to his head, face, and neck were consistent with strikes from a closed fist, according to authorities. Basically, state police suggested Cameron, at least in part, beat Langell to death. The victim also sustained a non-lethal stab wound. He was arraigned on Wednesday. He's being held by the Department of Correction in lieu of a $1 million cash bond. The Delaware State Police and Department of Correction did not immediately respond for any comment. So the guy who killed him, John Cameron, 41-year-old, was arrested in August 2007 for this is an interesting way he got what he did to get arrested. He was obviously not well. Arrested in 2007 for a lethal multi-city multi-day crime spree in Delaware. The spree began with Cameron attempting to set fire to a family member's car. Then he stabbed a woman with a screwdriver, committed a carjacking, murdered a father of 4 who was working as a store clerk at an A+ mini mart during a robbery, committed another carjacking, attacked someone, and finally resisted arrest, authorities said in an NBC report. The murder victim was Kevin Young, a 41-year-old man from Claymont, Delaware. That was the father of 4 that he had murdered. So
this is the guy who killed the pedophile.
this is the guy who killed the pedophile, correct? So he wasn't the greatest, but you know what? He's already in there. It also say they didn't know if that was the reason that he killed him. I'm just going to go ahead and say in my head that I hope that it was, because when you rape a 4-year-old girl, go fucking die. And I hope it hurt a lot.
Well, yeah, so, if they don't put you in protective custody, you're dead.
Asking for it. And he'd been in there a while, so he should be lucky he survived that long, to be quite honest with you.
I will say, though, this is kind of a public service announcement type thing.
Sure.
I know how people feel about pedophiles, but I don't condone attacking them or assaulting them, killing them, or whatever it is you want to do. If you become aware of someone's somehow sexually abused children, report them to the authorities. They know how to handle it. But if you just go and assault someone, they can just prosecute you, and they won't get in any trouble because there is a protocol that has to be followed when it comes to making an arrest. And if someone hasn't even committed a crime, well, then you're the one who's going to get in trouble.
I appreciate you saying that, Morgan, because when I say these things, I say it out of my passion, and I obviously don't mean for you guys, for anybody to go commit any crimes against anybody else, because then you're just as bad as they are, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, because as we know, they publish the addresses of the sex offenders after they get out of prison.
Yeah.
And people who want to go there and do that, but the thing is, and a lot of them, the Catch the Predator show, a lot of people have done that. They met pedophiles online and arranged a rendezvous and then surprised them saying, yeah, I'm not a 14-year-old girl or whatever it was supposed to be. But the thing is, for one thing, if it didn't turn out to be the 14-year-old girl, then the crime hasn't been committed, and it's entrapment, which is a crime. And actually, law enforcement has said that doing this is not helpful. So it just makes the pedophiles much more clever about avoiding getting caught, and they do share that information among each other. They do tell each other how not to get caught, how to know.
Yeah, there's people that specialize in doing this, the law enforcement agents, who I would, and I don't think they have very long careers because of what they do.
Yeah.
It's so mentally taxing, but let them do their jobs for sure. However, devil's advocate, if it were my child, can't tell you that I wouldn't.
Oh no, I get it.
Physically harm somebody.
Oh, I totally get that. Yeah, but at the same time, should you be going to jail too?
No, and then therein lies the problem.
Yeah, right. So my next story. Here's the head. Now, I actually have two stories that happened in Walmart, and just like how any.
If you say it's a Walmart in Florida, I'm quitting right now.
No, this is in Tennessee, but almost
okay. All right.
Stories that happen in Florida tend to be bizarre or funny. The stories that happen in Walmart tend to also be bizarre and funny, and it doesn't matter what part of the United States.
Correct. We should do a spin-off podcast of just stories in Walmart.
Oh yeah. Clarksville, Tennessee. I have actually been to this Walmart, but I didn't see it. It's strange.
You've personally been to this Walmart?
Yeah, I was once in a long-distance relationship with a woman who lived in Clarksville, and that was one of the biggest shopping centers in the area.
Interesting.
Actually, because there's a big armed forces base there, and the military wives shop there in the middle of the month. It was interesting, actually. As a side note, she said, in this community, if you own like a retail business and you don't give a military discount to the military,
oh yeah,
goodbye.
What city is it in? Is it by Camp Lejeune? Is it by the Marine base or?
Clarksville, Tennessee. I think it might be.
Oh, Tennessee. Never mind. I'm sorry. I was thinking North Carolina.
There's a few Clarksvilles, yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, she said, you'll go out of business. So restaurant, store, doesn't matter. You got to give the. So Clarksville, Tennessee, a Clarksville man was arrested Wednesday after he urinated in Walmart while trying to put a package of trout in his trousers,
Oh
and
my.
the police officer that he wasn't concerned because his crimes were only misdemeanors, according to an arrest warrant. So Clarksville police were called to that Walmart, and a worker told an officer David Wiley was seen urinating on the sales floor near the alcohol while trying to put a package of trout in his pants, and he then attempted to leave the store without paying. The officer wrote that Wiley told him he indeed urinated on the floor, but, quote, was not concerned because, as he said, it was not a misdemeanor. He also said he had been consuming alcohol. Wow, what a
Wow,
surprise.
weird.
He repeatedly stated to the officer that he was not concerned because, again, misdemeanor. It was not just
Can you say trout in his trousers one more time, please?
trout in his trousers yet. Wiley's statements, as well as the detection of alcohol, led me to believe that the offenses were likely to continue, the officer wrote. So Wiley, 56, was arrested and charged with shoplifting, vandalism, indecent exposure, and public intoxication. Have you ever been to a website called peopleofwalmart.com?
Yes, and also one of his reasons for being arrested is having a trouser trout.
Oh yeah, trouser trout. I don't know if you
This
realize.
is my humor, folks. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
but
I have been to people of Walmart. I don't want to say specifically which Walmart I was speaking of, but I do live I live near one of probably the most infamous store, Walmart store for those type of pictures ever. I could probably go sit there and just spend a day taking pictures and provide you quite a bit of material.
it's for people who don't give a shit anymore, I guess.
Ew, oof. It's yes. Well, amongst I don't even know where to start, Morgan.
My
You could
favorite.
see anything.
My favorite was a woman who looked like she was between 65 and 70. She was wearing like a pair of like loose fitting pants, and she pulled them up, and she had no top on, no bra, pulled them up over her breasts, her saggy
Yeah,
breasts.
to use them as a top too.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen that?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, can't blame a girl.
Well, true. Yeah. Like I said, she just doesn't care. I guess when you get to that age,
I guess if my boobs were sagging that low and I could tuck them into my pants, maybe save some laundry, maybe I would.
oh yeah. I mean, there's this like, uh, cross-dressing men walking around, and this was before transgender people started to gain more notice as citizens who
Yeah,
enjoy.
that's just normal.
Like
Like,
years before that happened, there were people at Walmart. There were lots of men like in their 50s walking around in a tutu or something, and so there. I mean, people they've actually merchandised that website too. You can get people Walmart calendars and all kinds of merch.
it's the greatest.
Oh yeah. So next story.
My next story is, are you doing yours?
Oh, no, I just did the Walmart thing, so that was
Okay.
mine.
I'm sorry, I thought you said you had two. I love that you're being comic relief because for some reason I went really morbid this this week.
It is welcome to it.
My story is this one's from Newport News, Virginia. I titled this one Mom of the Year. So like I had a prison one, I have a bad mom one, I had a pedo one. I had a Florida one. We'll run through the gamut. So a mother of two was arrested after allegedly stabbing her infant son to death, severely wounding her 8-year-old daughter, and then texting her fiance details of the scene.
God.
Cool.
But what? Oh, were they on the outs? Was it like revenge against him or something?
I don't think so. That is not what it says in this story. So it says Newport News Police Department officers responded to a call on May 10th, 6 days ago, at 9:30 p.m. on the 300 block of Hilltop Drive regarding a female in distress. The department said in a statement. When officers arrived, they reportedly found an infant and another child suffering from multiple stab wounds. The officers performed first aid, but the infant, identified as A 10-month-old boy succumbed to his wounds. The Daily Press reports the criminal complaint against 35-year-old Newport News resident Sarah Whitney Gano, it's Ganoe, or Ganu,
Yeah, I guess so.
states Ganu's, we're going to go with Ganu.
All right.
Ganu's 8-year-old daughter had ready? At least 50 stab wounds throughout her body, including evisceration to her abdomen. She was
Oh,
transported to a hospital and was listed in critical but stable condition on Tuesday. So that little girl is actually still alive.
oh, there must be mental illness behind this, like schizophrenia.
Yeah. Gnu was charged with 1 count of second-degree murder, 1 count of malicious wounding, and 2 counts of felony child neglect. She was booked into the Newport News City Jail, then transferred to Central State Hospital, where she is still in custody. So there you go. According to the Daily Press, Gnu reportedly admitted to stabbing her 2 children during an interview with police. Newport News Police Chief Stephen Drew said Gnu allegedly texted her fiance, the infant's father, and quote, described the scene that he would see when he came home, end quote. Gnu allegedly wrote that the house would be bloody when he got home. According to the Daily Press, the fiance then called police regarding the text messages he received from her. So obviously she was going through some mental
Yeah.
illness. Police reportedly found a pocket knife at the scene. Oh my God. Pocket knife at the scene. Gnu was transported to the hospital after being taken into custody to receive treatment for superficial injuries. Oh, so she was at a regular hospital, not a mental hospital. The injuries reportedly she had were bruising to her right hand and arm that occurred during the stabbing. She also reported, this is so sad, she reportedly had 1 bite mark to her right forearm that she stated was from the 8-year-old biting her in an attempt to get free. According to the Daily Press, Drew said the officers had responded to domestic disturbance type calls at Gnu's apartment a couple of times already this year. The police department said the investigation remains ongoing. Gnu's arraignment is scheduled for May 20th, so in 4 days. Yay,
So,
Mom of the Year.
so I know about postpartum depression, but can those hormonal fluctuations that happen throughout pregnancy and around the time that the mother has given birth, is it possible that it can lead to postpartum psychosis?
Yes, and since that baby was only 10 months old, that very well could be the case here. Undiagnosed severe postpartum depression or psychosis. Um, Personally speaking, I'm just going to say this for anybody who's a mother or has ever felt this or is pregnant and may go through this. So after you have your baby, your hormones just plummet. You had a baby in you for 9 months and all of a sudden everything's out. So what they call this the baby blues. So essentially 2 weeks after you have your baby, you're kind of it doesn't happen to everybody. It happened to me and no one warned me about it. So I thought I was losing my shit and I needed to be, committed. But everything was sad. You're just the most hopeless. You're looking at your little baby. I love my baby, but I looked outside and like outside was sad. The cat was sad. I was just sad
And
and
before
hopeless and felt very, very depressed.
and before you
However,
before you had kids, did you have a history of depression?
yes, I did at times, not always, just
Yeah.
off and on. But I do have horrendous anxiety, so that could have had something to do with it. However, my doctor said, okay, this is normal for if it goes past 2 weeks, then we'll talk about it being postpartum. Each time I had my kids, 2 weeks almost to the day, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up the next day and boom, it was like I was back to normal.
Hmm.
It's the strangest thing. However, if it lasts longer, that's when you need to talk to your doctor because you're having some postpartum. And I do know people who genuinely have had it and they have feelings of not even wanting to be with a baby, rejecting the baby. It's a serious illness that needs to be addressed. So that could be what happened here. I don't know.
And if you already had a serious mental illness, like I mean, that was diagnosed a long time ago,
Right.
that would just make it even worse then.
It could for sure.
If you were bipolar or had borderline personality disorder or schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm. Yep, all those things need to be taken into consideration. So be careful, guys, women, ladies, men. Look out for those signs if there are any. I'd be interested to know what happens in that case as well.
And from depression, we go into the next story, which is more about depravity. Naked
Oh,
people wearing Ronald Reagan mask caught on camera in Vestavia Hills. I don't think it didn't state that as in. Have you ever heard of Vestavia Hills? Do you know where that is?
where's this?
Vestavia Hills. Do you know what state that's in?
No.
All right. Anyway, a Vestavia Hills couple got quite the surprise on New Year's Eve when a nude man wearing a presidential mask, Ronald Reagan, creeped into their breezeway. The man, who was naked except for what appeared to be a Ronald Reagan rubber mask, covering his head and a sock covering his private parts, ran off when Jersey Belle's Danielle Yancey and her husband spotted him. The ordeal, however, was caught on their home security video and later posted to Facebook as a warning to neighbors and others. I know a lot of people are laughing about it, and honestly, I got a chuckle from it later, but at the same time, it's very concerning. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're planning on doing. See, it's okay when the Red Hot Chili Peppers appear in public wearing only
It's
socks.
Alabama, by the way.
Oh, it's Alabama. Oh,
Yep,
okay.
Alabama.
So Yancey's husband Bart, who just taken out the trash and returned inside when he caught a glimpse of a shadow in the breezeway. The trespasser had already opened the gate and entered when Bart Yancey yelled to him. He then followed him briefly while he called 911 from his cell phone. They were not able to find the man, the police said. It was so cold outside. The police said he wouldn't last long outside nude like that. So have you been in Alabama? Have you spent any time there?
Uh, I've never been to Alabama, but I mean, Georgia is pretty close.
Yeah,
Same.
because I always used to assume like it doesn't get cold in the south, like north of Florida, but I guess it does, right? You have like
Yeah, it
regular.
can get good. Well, yeah, I mean, it can get cold. Depending, it's not your kind of cold. Our cold is probably like 40 degrees, 50. I mean, that's cold for me. I'd be cold outside with no clothes on at that temperature.
Well, I mean, so what's the state like immediately north to Florida? What's that state?
Georgia
And
and
I know,
Alabama, I believe, Lord have mercy, look at us. I should know this because I live here, right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't get out much. No, but Georgia's right above us, and Alabama is,
It's the next one up. Yeah.
yeah, is
So I
next
guess
to it.
they do
Next
get
to it.
something approximating a real winter there. They get snow, do they? Or
Probably rarely, but yes.
okay. So the guy said he could have been messed up on drugs or alcohol. Gee, do you think? And in
Yeah.
that mindset, you don't know what you would do to someone else. I don't think he had a gun on him. Well, where would he hide it? But he could have potentially hurt us, or we could have hurt him. Even if it was a prank, it could have become very scary and dangerous quickly. So,
Sounds something that would happen in Alabama.
well, they got another call about it at 11 p.m. about a teenager streaking through the neighborhood, but maybe that wasn't connected. Um,
Or was it?
Maybe it was, yeah. I mean, technically he was armed, just not with a gun.
Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. Those are some tricky states down there. The old Bible Belt. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
what's considered the Bible Belt? I think they're part of it.
So yeah, maybe it's just there's too much repression, and sometimes
Well, that's for sure.
some of that comes back with a vengeance, I guess. Yeah. All right, what's your next story?
The title of my next story is called Ex-Wife on Ice.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this is an example of dumb shit not to do when you're committing crimes. We had one of those last time, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Here's another example of that. Because apparently I like to teach people how to do crimes. That is a joke, guys. I don't want anybody to commit any crimes. I do like it when criminals mess up and are stupid, though. So,
Which they sometimes do. Yeah.
on the sweltering summer after afternoon of July 24th, 2011, that is hot. A police searching for a missing woman found a headless, limbless torso in Oyster Creek, a canal near Richmond, Texas. Throughout the day, divers and cadaver-scenting canine teams braved the heat. So July in Texas, yeah, that's hot.
That's intense, right?
That's
Yeah.
intense. Divers and cadaver-scenting canine teams braved the heat in search of the rest of the body. They found her bit by bit, a skull with a face barely attached, and then a severed leg. Through dental records, authorities soon learned that the dismembered corpse was once Laura Jean Akerson, 27, from Kinston, North Carolina. She was the woman they had been looking for. Oyster Creek was the last stop on a macabre 1,200-mile road trip. This is very interesting. At the wheel was musician Grant Ruffin Hayes, 31, Ackerson's ex-boyfriend and the father of her 2 sons. Along with him were his wife, Amanda, 39, and 3 children, Laura Jean's 2 boys, and Amanda's daughter. Does that make sense? All under the age of 4.
Mm.
So they had his wife, Amanda, 39, and 3 children. So Laura Jean's 2 boys and Amanda's daughter, all under the age of 4. There we go. So they had the 2. Got you. I had to reread that too. Laura Jean rode alone in a U-Haul packed on ice into 3 big coolers, her body destined to be a snack for Texas alligators. So this is the mom. So she's traveling with them in a U-Haul trailer, packed on ice in 3 coolers, and her children are in the front with her ex-boyfriend and his wife.
Were the kids aware that the mom was back on ice?
Let's continue reading. I don't believe so. Not 100%. Hayes and Ackerson met in 2007 and soon moved in together. This is Laura Jean. Ackerson was taking classes and trying to find her way in the business world, working her way up into restaurant jobs. Hayes was a composer and musician who played in bars around Raleigh. His drug use made his artistic temperament dangerously unstable. He was prone to outbursts of violence and held paranoid fantasies that the government and aliens were out to get him. Wrote Diane Fanning in her 2016 book on the case called Bitter Remains. Ooh, I'll have to go check that out. As a string of her harebrained business schemes or recording prospects all fell through, Grant, whose stage name was Grant Hayes, grew angrier, more unpredictable, and took more drugs. Because that's always what you should do when you are going through a rough spot. Take more drugs.
Yeah. Sort of which drugs were they? Did they say?
They didn't say. They just said drugs.
Maybe bath salts. Who knows?
Could be. You never know. Hayes treated Ackerson with increasing cruelty and contempt, bullying, abuse, and cheating. Sounds about right. It was clear that romance was doomed when he wrote a song just for her. He called it Broomstick Rider. Hayes saying about violent intentions, quote, I put a price tag on your head, end quote. He's saying, quote, my bullets will get you soon, end quote. For a time, the couple lived in the U.S. Virgin Islands. There, Grant met a woman from Texas, Amanda Perry Tucker. She was a former actress who had landed some small parts in movies and TV years earlier. Soon, Hayes and Tucker were an item, and then a married couple with a baby daughter. The new marriage sent Hayes and Ackerson into a bitter custody battle over who would get the 2 boys. He and Amanda had them during the week. Their mother got to see them only on the weekends. Interesting. That's also an interesting fact to me, but okay. On July 13th, 2011, Ackerson left a message on her friend's answering machine saying she was going to visit her sons at their father's apartment. Then she disappeared. She did not show up for several appointments, which was not like her. Worried family and friends, well aware of her boyfriend's hatred for her, reported her missing. Police started following a trail left by the Hayes family. It took them from North Carolina to Richmond, Texas, where Amanda's sister lived. That's the wife. Around the same time Laura Jean disappeared, Grant Hayes had gone on a spending spree in Walmart. Ready, guys?
Walmart.
If you had 2 guesses, what would you think some of the things he bought at Walmart were, Morgan?
Ammunition.
Okay.
Well, a gun.
Okay. All right. We're on the right. So he went on a spree. Here's what he bought: a power saw, blades, industrial trash bags, plastic tarps, goggles, and duffel bags. Then he, Amanda, and the three children hit the road heading for the sisters' home. As soon as they, really smart. As soon as they arrived, both Grant and Amanda started asking strange questions, such as the creek's depth, whether there were alligators in the water, or if the area's feral hogs ate people.
I think they do. Well, I mean, if you're dead, yeah.
Okay, first off, people asking those questions that are staying with me would immediately be invited to leave, because no, those are not normal questions to ask.
Well, again, I think if you've never been there, maybe you'd be curious just because.
But that's not the first. Hey, do feral hogs eat people? Are there alligators? No, that's not what I'm asking the first time. No.
But don't feral hogs sometimes attack people, or do they keep their distance usually?
They keep their distance usually. They don't really attack. And they're hunted, not hunters. But if there's remains, yeah, they would go after them for sure. Grant visited another store to purchase a large trash can and hydrochloric acid. Prosecutors would later say that the plan was to dissolve the body in acid, and if that didn't work, leave it in the creek for the gators. The idea that they would take a dismembered corpse on such a long ride only to dump it near a relative's home raised eyebrows among Texas law officers. Me too, same.
Yeah, that's a little strange, isn't it?
So this is a quote from the deputy sheriff. So they drove through, 5 or 6 states and over a 40-mile swamp in Louisiana, all so they could bring the body here?
That's a lot of territory.
The deputy sheriff said to the Raleigh NC News and Observer, fortunately for police, criminals just aren't very smart. End quote. There's that story. Yeah. So yes, yeah. they were arrested and charged.
If you're going to commit crime like that, bring yourself up to speed on the true crime literature.
I mean, gosh, guys.
Prepared,
Don't buy a bunch of murder crap at Walmart either.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you could do that once and maybe not raise any suspicions, but I guess if you were doing that like constantly, they'd start to wonder.
Or like right before you go on a road trip, when you're planning on taking your ex-girlfriend's wife or body on ice, like that's suspicious. They're gonna, let's just say you don't get away with it and they find her body, you've just given them reason.
Well, I would wonder about anyone in the city that I live in buying a chainsaw because, like,
well, you're living, but you're cold. You guys have snow, so that's not weird. Buying a chainsaw here, immediate odd. Well, why are you buying a chainsaw?
Well, in a big city like this, you usually have to get like a permit if you want to cut a tree down because there's like safety issues. It could fall onto the next house or something. Yeah. And I think maybe even then they want someone from the city to do it. So if you want a chainsaw, you're going to buy a chainsaw here. People might start to wonder what it is you want it for, because it's not like in my father's hometown, which is out in the country where lots of people own their own chainsaws. But anyway, my next story. Are you into vampires at all?
Yeah, I'm into it all, for sure.
Anyone else listening, if you're interested in vampires, I have a story about real life vampires, though they're not in keeping with what you would read about in Anne Rice novel.
Ooh, is this an older story or a newer story?
It was from a few years ago. I think it might.
If I've heard of it. I'm excited.
Might have been like 2016, I think. Okay. So the headline is Outbreak of Female Vampire-like Attackers in New Zealand.
Ooh, New Zealand.
Have been injured during a series of vampire-like biting attacks on New Zealand's North Island. Over the past 2 days, a woman was accused of biting a man's neck so hard her teeth cut through an artery, while another woman was arrested after allegedly chomping on a woman's ear. Stuff.co.nz, I believe that's a news site from New Zealand, reports the two incidents on Saturday and early Sunday were unrelated. It was a fight between 3 females, and during the fight, one of the females has bitten another one's ear and drawn blood. She hasn't bitten it off, but quite badly, so she needed some medical attention. A few hours later, police were called to a separate biting attack at a pub in Napier, New Zealand. Officers said a woman became involved in a brawl at the Thirsty Whale and bit a man on the neck. The man lost so much blood, he was taken to a hospital in serious condition. Uh, and Hawke's Bay District Command Center spokesman said, she obviously got the right spot, or you could argue the wrong spot. Thirsty Whale bar owner Chris Sullivan said the fight took place in the early hours of Sunday. We've never seen these people before. They're certainly not locals. Yeah, maybe they're from Transylvania.
They're like 400 years old. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
The Thirsty
We were at a
Whale.
restaurant. Yeah, the Thirsty Whale.
You are killing the puns today. First you had the trouser trout. Now you have vampires at the Thirsty Whale. You're killing it.
Thirsty Whale. It's a restaurant. We do have a dance floor on Saturday night. But we have nice people having a great time. But a couple that night clearly didn't. Earlier in the week, another person was bitten during a family violence incident. It was a little bit weird, the police spokesman said. Wow, there have been some incidents throughout the years of people actually deciding to become real literal vampires.
Yeah.
There's a real subculture built around that where people have parties, maybe not as much now, but the women put some kind of makeup on themselves to make themselves look pale. I think it
Did
kind
you?
of
There was a girl. Did you see the My Strange Addiction? The girl who liked to drink blood.
I didn't, but I'm sure that exists.
So yeah, she had a friend of hers that would come over and let her drink his blood. Like not enough to kill him, obviously, but she just liked drinking blood.
Wow.
So yeah. Also, the three vampire fight you talk about at the beginning of the story. I kind of want to see video of that.
Yeah, that would be interesting, but it doesn't sound like anyone was around to capture it on video. But then again, I don't know if in 2016 people did have cell phone videos, but I don't know.
Not as much as now.
Yeah. Oh, now, yeah. You can make like real quality
Well, I
videos.
guess yeah. I have such a hard time with years now because back in the early 2000s, like the 90s it wasn't that long ago, and now the 90s was a really long time ago. And I have a hard time judging time the older I get. I feel like now I know how my parents feel.
The last 20 years kind of melt together in my
For
memory.
sure.
The 80s, the 70s was very distinct from the 80s. The 80s was very distinct from the 90s. But I
Yep.
feel like the last 20 years are just kind of one long stretch that not a huge amount of things have changed aside from how social media has become a big part of people's lives.
It's huge.
Technology has changed a lot, but otherwise I feel like the culture really isn't that much different.
I feel like it is, but I've also had children, so that's probably gives it a whole new. I see if
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't having going from not having them to having them, you're like your eyes open up to a whole other world that you don't see through children's eyes, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That's for sure.
So yeah,
All right,
vampires, cool.
yeah, unless you're actually biting people on the neck when they don't want
Yeah,
you.
don't do that. I
Yeah.
mean, we had Florida zombies, we have New Zealand vampires. We don't need this.
Cosplay's fine, but not.
Co- Cosplay's safe, guys.
Yeah.
I'm into that. I miss doing cosplay. We can do that.
Yeah.
That's funny. You're funny tonight.
Don't drink anyone's blood unless they give consent. Otherwise, it's almost like rape, right?
Exactly. And then remember I told you I organized a zombie con years ago. We used to have to put signs up for our vet, control your bleeding, don't bleed on other people's property and stuff like that. So that was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We got in trouble and had to clean up the streets afterwards when people did that.
All right. What's your next story?
It's actually another Florida case. This is a short one. Also rather new, but I put typical Florida.
Yeah.
It's not funny though. It's very sad. A truck driver in Florida was making his scheduled stops early Wednesday. This actually just happened. Wednesday morning when he came across a grisly scene along the side of County Road 219. I wonder where that is. I bet you it's in the middle of nowhere. It was the bodies of two teenage boys shot to death and sprawled along the side of the road. Apparently the 911 call, which I have not listened to, was pretty, like, the guy was really shaken up. He said, I just found two bodies, the driver said in a call 911 released by the Sumter County Sheriff's Office on Thursday. I'm shaking right now. So you know how Florida has that law where all of the 911 calls are public record.
Yeah, I think it's
They
like
have,
that places though.
yeah, they have to be released. So it can be a good thing. It could also be bad depending on what kind of situation you're in. Authorities would later identify the teenagers as Preston Wayne Nixon, 16 years old, and Isaiah Alexander Nelson, 17. These two young men have been robbed of their chance to live their lives, having been senselessly taken from their families. Captain John Galvin said in an update to the case Thursday, according to Galvin, the bodies were discovered just after 5 a.m. on Wednesday morning. The shocked trucker told the dispatcher that the bodies were in front of a wildwood house along the road. They were just laying on the ground, he said. He warned other drivers to turn around before coming up to the grisly site and pleaded with dispatchers to send a deputy as soon as possible. I'll pray for their souls, he said. I can't believe this. Galvin said both teens appeared to have injuries stemming from gunshot wounds. Authorities do not believe it was a random shooting. This is a tragedy that has deeply impacted our community, Galvin said. We believe at this time that both victims may have known their assailant. Interesting. Both teens were being homeschooled when they died, however. Nelson and his friends and family attending Wildwood Middle High School and grief counselors are on hand at the school for those in need. Investigators have released few other details about the double homicide, citing the ongoing investigation. We believe at this time both victims may have known their assailant, Galvin said. Our detectives are working tirelessly to follow up on any leads, and we're asking the community's help to solve this brutal and senseless murder. Anyone with any information about this case is urged to contact the authorities as it is still being investigated. 16 and 17-year-old boys.
This is a current. This is an ongoing investigation.
Just happened last week. So 2 dead teenagers found on the side of the road. Trucker found them. They pretty much know nothing except for that they think that they knew their assailant.
So many kids
But I find it interesting that they were left out to be found in wide open space. So there was no trying to cover their bodies. It wasn't in the woods. It was just alongside the road.
I wonder if when they do that, if there was a personal animus against them, because if anyone who listened to my most recent documentary style episode, the one about the serial killer Patrick Kearney, even though he did have some unresolved rage against these guys who bullied him in high school, the victims that he killed, he didn't have any personal grudges against them.
I haven't listened yet. No spoilers.
Okay, well, the way he disposed of them in a way that ensured that for many years, many of them were not found, and then they were only found and told the police where they were. But if somebody just leaves the bodies out in the open like that, they must be basically saying, I hope they're found, and I hope they're horrified, and I hope.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. It's just so brazen to leave them there. Again, these are newer stories, so.
Yeah, it's like the murder of Shonda Scherer, where they lit her on fire and they just left her out, like I think beside the road or by a bridge or something, and because the assailants hated her so much that they just did
not care, just wanted it to be.
They wanted everybody to be
horrifying.
Yeah. All right, my next story. So my next story, I'm going from vampires to Satan now. The headline is people who blame their crimes on the devil. So a lot of people have used Satan as a scapegoat or as an excuse, saying, I became possessed of the devil and I committed these murders, and most likely it's a crock.
Nice try, guys.
Yeah, right. So there's two short stories of people who blamed the devil for the crime they committed. The first one, a Los Angeles man killed and skinned his mother in an alleged satanic ritual. In 2011, then 18-year-old Moises Meraz Espinoza strangled his mother, Amelia, and then mutilated her lifeless body before skinning her, removing her organs, and cutting the body into pieces with a circular saw.
Okay.
Sliced skin and flesh were later found stacked in a freezer. Amelia's skull was found in a backpack. All of her teeth and both eyes were removed, and 2 upside-down crosses were carved into the bone. According to the Huffington Post, investigators recovered a satanic Bible with a chapter on human sacrifice near the crime scene, and prosecutors argued that the killing had been a satanic ritual, according to the Long Beach Press-Telegram. Prosecutors claimed that the date of death corresponded to a day of human or animal sacrifice in the satanic calendar, and cited the accused's tattoos of satanic imagery as evidence of his involvement in Satanism. The judge in the case called Meraz Espinosa's crimes disgusting, hideous, and vulgar. So I'm wondering if this guy modeled his crimes after Richard Ramirez.
Right? God, that guy's psycho. Now it's like now I have Richard Ramirez's face in my head. Thanks a lot.
Did he chop anybody up, or did he just kill them? I never read into that case very closely.
Richard, you should totally do Richard Ramirez. He was a monster. So hang on, I'm gonna look up something. You just said I was gonna look up the satanic cult because they are actually.
Well, they were making the news in the 80s. I remember that, the so-called satanic panic, and the FBI investigated it, but they found out that there really weren't all these cults sacrificing children, and it was just it was kind of a hoax.
Well, of course, you know, it was people listening to what they called devil worship music, which was just like Slayer and friggin' Megadeth. You know, we were just going through a different level, a different kind of music, guys. But
Yeah, playing records backwards and claiming,
yeah,
saying Satan, I love you, Satan, or something like that.
exactly. That's the Satanic Temple. That's what I was thinking of. So they're the non-theistic religious group based out of the United States.
Oh,
They're legitimately a religion.
You mean Anton LaVey's Church of Satan? Is that what you're talking about?
Nope. It's Lucian Greaves and Malcolm Jerry are the founders, and it's literally the Satanic Temple.
Oh,
So they're essentially atheists that wanted. They do a lot of good. They're not. It's not a bad thing. They started it because they wanted to counteract, you know, religions that were all about they say they were all inclusive, but they weren't. And so they formed the Satanic Temple, and you know they work on social justice, help the separation of religion and state, people's freedom, stuff like that. So they do a lot of good. So I didn't want it to be associated with that because that's actually a pretty good organization.
yeah, but well, there's a Satanic Bible written by Anton LaVey for the Church of Satan, and
Right. That one is that the negative, the actual
well,
negative one?
well, they were also atheists, and
Oh,
but
okay.
they never they never encouraged sacrifices. They never included sacrifices in their ceremony, not even symbolically. It's a completely different
Just
situation.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well, the Satanic Temple actually let me restate. They're a 501c3, so they're a nonprofit charity, is what they are.
oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and I don't mean to offend any Christians, but
No, not whatsoever. You do you, but
they're more.
also don't cut up your people and then carve upside down crosses into their bones and put their eyeballs and things. That's not cool.
Yeah, there's more Christians have killed more people than Satanists. And I'm not suggesting every Christian is capable of committing murder. They're not supposed to. But that's
That was a pretty gross. So, and he said it was because he was told to, or it was his
let me see.
religion.
Well, I don't know. It was the time of year supposedly when members of his particular sect of Satanism were to commit a sacrifice if they were
Okay,
so
so this was the one he chose. Got you.
small. So,
Well, and okay, okay.
oh yeah, and as a side note, apparently if you've ever played the vinyl version of the Beatles record, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, there's this little melody of like voices that just plays over and over again when the needle gets to the end of it all. And
Hmm.
the and if you play it backwards, it sounds like we're going to fuck you like Superman. I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, I've heard those clips before. I hear they're just making shit up because if you play anything backwards, you can kind of hear what you want to hear.
Well, Paul McCartney said it does sound like that, so
I mean, yeah, it can sound like that. Just like there's all the sexual innuendos that they say are in the Disney movies, which by the way, I have seen some of them, but
seemed
that's
yeah.
another podcast again.
Yeah, you watch it as an adult and you're like, holy crap.
You're like, wait, what?
Okay, so the next one is titled Menage of Satan. This headline from New York Daily News says it all. Milwaukee roommates Rebecca Chandler and Raven Larrabee arrested for satanic sex torture. According to the article, an 18-year-old man from Arizona traveled to Wisconsin for a threesome after meeting two women, Rebecca Chandler and her roommate Raven Larrabee, online. Upon arrival, he was tied up with duct tape and during
Whoa.
2 day sex marathon, cut with a knife more than 300 times.
Wait a second, wait. Where did the girls live?
They live in Milwaukee, and he
And
lived in
he what drove from where?
Arizona. But you see, Rachel, you don't understand. You're not a man. Men will
Holy,
sex.
that's a really long way, I believe. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Arizona.
Yeah, which Arizona to Wisconsin. I don't know how long a drive that.
That's really far. That is far.
So that's the south. That's the southwest to the Midwest, right?
Correct.
That's a long one. But
Okay, so, oh wow. All right.
you
So
don't
he
get.
shows up.
Yep. So upon arrival, he was tied up with duct tape, and during the course of a 2 day sex marathon, cut with a knife more than 300 times. Chandler claims the victim was okay with the cutting. It just got a bit out of hand. Police found a number of books relating to the occult, magic, and Satanism in the apartment, including the necromantic ritual rule book, The Werewolf's Guide to Life, and an intro to sigil-born spirits. So, I mean, I know
Okay.
people who are into this kind of stuff are into knives. Some people enjoy knives, but I guess there should have been a safe word so they
Yeah.
establish something like that.
I would recommend always having a safe word for those liking to go on the little aggressive side sexually. That's just me.
Yeah, if you're into knife play, you really got to establish some ground
I
rules.
mean, yeah.
But I mean, the fact that this guy was willing to travel so far to do it, maybe they thought based on that information, like this guy will do anything.
So
But
he didn't die, right?
he didn't die, but they just took it a little too far.
Huh. Do you think he regrets it?
Probably. I mean, if you're cut 300 times, even if they're superficial wounds, they could get infected. You could start bleeding heavily. So,
That is a very interesting story. That's wow. Okay.
like I said, you're not a man, so you don't know what
I'm
it's
not.
that far to have sex.
I'm not. Nope. That's really far.
A wo- a woman can just step outside the door and call to the neighborhood to get sex. Men don't. Women have sexual privilege. That's one form of privilege you guys have. All right, so your next story.
Oh God, I do not want to transition into this story after that story. Okay. Let me have a moment. I have to change headspace.
That was a darker one.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I have one more after this. I was really trying to find something for payback for the story that Morgan did last week, the last story, and I mean but I feel like a creepy. I feel like the cops are gonna bust in and raid my house at any moment when you Google stuff like that. but whatever. Just doing true crime, guys.
Yeah.
Just true crime. So this is a story out of Rowan County, Tennessee. Oh, we're a lot in the down in the old southern states today, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Prosecutors will seek the death penalty against a Rowan County couple accused in a horrific child abuse case after the death of at least one of their adopted children. Bear with me, I think this is a little bit of a longer one. In separate notices issued to Shirley and Michael Gray Sr., the state the state said it will seek a death penalty of death and if either is found guilty of the first degree murder of their adopted daughter, Sophie Heather Gray. Rowan County authorities recovered her body in the backyard of the couple's 10-mile neighborhood home on May 23rd. I believe this was last year, by the way, not this year.
Oh.
Deputies said that she was about 11 years old at the time of her death. In the documents, prosecutors called the girl's murder especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and that it involved serious torture or serious physical abuse beyond that necessary to cause death, which is
Jeez.
a really, really, really horrible sentence to read.
Yeah.
According to warrants previously obtained by Knox News, deputies say the Grays locked the girl in the home's basement in 2017 as punishment for eating food from the kitchen. She died after a few months. I don't know if she died of starvation. It didn't go into that. That's what I think they fed her very, very little, so she eventually died of starvation.
Could be, yeah.
Because she was in there for quite a long time. Investigators say Gray Sr. told deputies he kept Sophie's body in a cardboard box before burying her in the backyard. The Grays each face 42 charges in Rowan County under accusations of abuse that occurred during or after 2017 at their home on Dry Fork Valley Road. The couple was indicted on 4 counts of felony murder, 8 counts of aggravated child abuse, 8 counts of aggravated child neglect, 9 counts of aggravated kidnapping, and 6 counts of especially aggravated kidnapping, which I don't know what that is. Especially aggravated kidnapping?
Well, I guess it's not the kind where.
So it's 9 counts of aggravated and 6 counts of especially aggravated kidnapping.
Well, I guess there's like the kind of kidnapping where the child's maybe kind of tricked into it, and then there's the kind where they're taken by force or threatened. Yeah. So.
Very well. That was according to the district attorney's office. They also each face counts of abuse of a corpse, charging theft and falsification of education or academic records. Rowan County deputies began investigating the Grays after one of their adopted children was found walking alone on the roadside last May 2020. So yes, that's when this happened. After authorities returned the child, Gray Sr. told the Department of Child Services he had a 15-year-old in his basement and another buried in his backyard. So he just flat out told them. Arrest warrant paperwork detailed authorities' search of the house, which deputies said smelled of urine and feces, and the rescue of the Grays' 3 surviving adopted children. Deputies found the 15-year-old boy in the home's unfurnished and partially flooded basement, which had no electricity, running water, or bathroom. The basement was full of human and animal feces, garbage, mold, and exposed wires. Deputies said the Grays had locked the boy down there for 4 years, feeding him only bread and water as punishment for stealing food from the pantry and refrigerator. At least one other child periodically was kept inside a wire dog cage in the basement before the Grays built a small concrete room measuring less than 3 by 4 feet under the stairs for confinement, according to the warrants. The 3 children rescued from the Grays' care appeared, quote, to be stunted in growth, unquote, according to deputies, and none had received medical attention in at least 6 years. Shirley Gray claimed the children were homeschooled, but deputies said the children appeared to have no formal education and that they were amazed by what a refrigerator does when they observed one in their foster home.
Wow.
The couple, along with their adult son, Michael Gray Jr., also faced charges in Knox County for the alleged child abuse and murder of another of their adopted children before they moved to Rowan County. So These two lovely people have a son who previously in another county also helped abuse and murder another adopted child prior to this.
Jeez.
Knox County authorities found the body of Jonathan Gray, who court records say was no older than 8 years old, buried in the backyard of Gray Jr.'s Hall's home off Cedar Breeze Road. The Grays also faced charges for 10 care fraud. 10 care, that I think it's like a Medicaid or like a financial assistance.
Yeah.
I think they faced charges for 10 care fraud and theft. The couple kept the children's deaths secret and continued to collect between $15,000 and $61,000 in benefits from the state, according to court records. They were also charged with abusing another unnamed child starting in June 2016 when the child was 6 years ago. That doesn't make any sense. I didn't write that. The abuse was so bad it stunted the child's growth and led to loss of physical function and severe psychological distress. The alleged abuse continued until Rowan County authorities intervened and began investigating on May 22nd, 2020. The records state. These people actually, I do not believe, have been sentenced yet. I did a little more research. There was a recent story that had come out in March of this year. They are still, their case is still has not gone to court to be sentenced. So that, but they're looking for the death penalty for both of them.
Oh man, these stories, that story, it's shocking to me, but it's not surprising because at this point, I've dealt with a lot of child abuse cases, and there's this constant paradigm of starvation,
Yep.
so rationing out food to the extreme, like like concentration camp rations, squalid conditions,
So sad.
feces all around them, some of them living in boxes, cages, punished for stealing food out of starvation.
I just can't wrap my brain around how a human being can do that
And what's
to
really
another human being. I just don't understand. They're human monsters. This is why you make the podcast. I mean, they really are.
well, the thing is, what's even more sad is that a lot of these kids are taken out of homes that were like that and then placed into foster homes so it's like their lives are bookended by abuse.
Ugh, it's just, oh my
A lot
Lord.
of these foster parents are really good at faking normalcy when the social workers come around to inspect everything. They're good at hiding it all. Like
How many stories have you done where that's happened?
quite a few.
I know.
I think I've done like 13 child abuse cases now. So yeah, when the social worker comes around, there's food in the cupboards, everything's clean, but behind the scenes, there's all kinds of horrible things going on. Except with the Turpins, the social workers were not aware of what was going on there, so it happened for I don't know what over 20
Well,
years.
and then we have that case was, I will never forget that one for the rest of my life. But yet that was his own wife didn't even know.
Well, you mean the Turpins?
Yeah.
They knew. I mean, she chained up the kids and never cleaned the house and just shit everywhere. And
Oh, I was sorry. I was thinking of the other one you did.
well, the Turpins seemed to view their children as like pets.
Correct.
They didn't seem to understand parenting almost, and they were deliberately cruel to them. But I remember the cops saying, like, when they entered that house, the stench just like punched them in the face. It was horrible. So anyway, my next case is, get this. This title's beautiful. Three men charged with over 1,400 counts of bestiality in Pennsylvania. So
Okay.
the trio were charged with over 1,400 counts of sexual intercourse with animals and are also accused of endangering the welfare of children.
Okay.
Three men in Munson, Pennsylvania were arrested for allegedly performing lewd sex acts on a number of farm animals. The men, Terry Wallace, 41, I think they were arrested in 2014, Matthew Brubaker, 31, and Mark Miesnikoff, 34, all lived on the same farm on Mouse Lane and face an astounding 1,460 counts of sexual intercourse with animals, as well as counts of animal cruelty. The men have also been charged with felony endangering the welfare of children and corruption of minors. According to the report filed with police, a 16-year-old boy who is the son of one of the three men was also living on the farm at the time the crimes were committed. State troopers received a complaint from the boy that alleged the men were having sex with at least 12 animals, including at least 9 female horses, a cow, a goat, and several dogs. The suspects allegedly forced the boy to hold the animals down while the men performed intercourse repeatedly for a period of about 4 or 5 years. It also described a V-shaped pen that was designed to specifically be used to facilitate the sexual activity, according to the police report. Authorities received a search warrant and reportedly obtained a large amount of homemade videos, along with recording equipment and cameras. The boy described his horrid living conditions in the trailer park that he shared with his father, where he had no access to electricity and collected rainwater so that he could take showers.
Oh.
Clearfield County District Attorney William A. Shaw Jr. said there are currently no allegations of the boy being sexually molested and that authorities have no reason to believe that he was. Right now, we don't believe the juvenile was sexually victimized.
Wow.
The boy has been taken into protective custody, and investigators have yet to determine the extent of mental or physical abuse that he may have been exposed to.
Precisely.
The men are being held in prison on a $100,000 bail as they await their trial and subsequent sentencing. In Pennsylvania, engaging in any form of sexual intercourse with an animal is penalized as a misdemeanor of the second degree. They face a maximum of 2 years in prison and a $5,000 fine for bestiality, although they may face a harsher sentencing taking into account the alleged crimes committed against the boy and the prolonged period of time that the criminal activity took place. A law that dictates the legality of bestiality happens at the state level, and believe it or not, there are still a number of states where it's legal to have sex with an animal.
I actually believe that.
Well, it says Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Kentucky, New Mexico, West Virginia, and Wyoming all deem bestiality legal. And most of the states also allow for the sale and distribution of zoophilic pornography.
Oh, why? Okay, first of all,
And
it's bestiality, but it was like 1,400 counts. So can we add a couple years on for the amount of?
considering the length of time and the amount of incidents, that's a lifestyle, right?
Correct. You're not gonna go back from that, especially when that's all that's the worst you got for you've been doing it for years. 1,400 animals.
God.
Definitely psychologically ruining a child.
Can you imagine what it must be like for the politicians when they do finally criminalize it in those states, like to have that debate?
That's probably why they have not decriminalized it, because they would have to then talk about it.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's too much to talk. We don't want to talk about those things. They don't happen. Well, they do, because you haven't talked about it to make a freaking law. So fucking talk, just like child trafficking. Oh, I was watching.
The thing about passing laws is you do have to have a debate. So we don't condone these kind of activities. So
and then you're gonna have that one guy. Well, no, this isn't. This should keep legal.
This is America, damn.
we have the right to do whatever we want to our animals. Oh my God, shut up.
I have to say, I was surprised that Hawaii has not criminalized it.
Yeah, right? Hawaii doesn't seem. Hey, Florida got out of there.
And Washington, D.C., I didn't expect that one. Yeah.
Neither.
Crazy. So that was easy. What's your next story?
This is actually the last story that I have pulled up. Okay.
Yep.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I am.
All right. This is older story. Lockland, Ohio, 2019. 2 men were arrested in what police were calling the most disturbing cases of child sex abuse they had ever seen. Sorry, guys, bringing it way down, but you are listening to Human Monsters. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry. William Bustillos III, 25, and Joseph Suter, 36, were arrested in connection with the investigation. Both were accused of raping young boys. They alleged victims were 5 and 7 years old.
Oh,
Authorities said there were more victims, adding that investigators found thousands of sexually explicit photos of young children. The investigation began in Milford with Suter, but led to Bustillos in Lockland. Federal investigators are now involved, saying it may be part of a much larger crime ring. Inside of a Lockland home where Bustillos lived, police said they found disturbing evidence of abuse. In a quote, "I have never come in contact with a case like this," end quote, said Sergeant Scott Godby with the Lockland Police Department. "I've seen a lot of bad things in this world, but this right here is probably the worst thing I've ever had to deal with,"
yeah.
end quote. The details are too graphic to describe, but investigators said Bustillos took a 5-year-old child upstairs to his room. Inside that room, police said satanic shrines and idols were scattered alongside sex toys. There were also cameras for recording his crimes, authorities said. "He has 31 years. I've got 27. I've never seen anything like this," Godby said, referencing neither he or his chief had ever seen anything like this before. Bustillos' mother and a man who lived downstairs in the same home as the suspect did not want to be identified. I wouldn't either. They both said that they do not believe the allegations. Okay, go fuck yourself. I'm adding in my own 2 cents, sorry. They had said the shrine was part of Bustillos' religion. Quote, "He's a Wiccan and he believes in the Wiccan way," end quote, the man said. "I support him in that even though I'm a Christian, that's his right," Bustillos' mother said. Bustillos was arrested Wednesday, this was again in 2018, on charges of rape, gross sexual imposition, and pandering sexual materials involving a juvenile. Authorities said the alleged 5-year-old victim was provided to Bustillos by Suter, who was arrested in a separate case by Milford police. So these guys are connected, but they're in different geographies, okay?
Yeah.
So one led this child to the other. Suter was arrested on August 16th, then later was later indicted on charges of rape and gross sexual imposition. He is currently jailed in the Claremont County Jail. Milford said he's accused of sexually abusing a 7-year-old child. He's also accused of taking sexually explicit photos of 2 other children, ages 5 and 8. Authorities said the alleged incidents happened at the Oakwood Apartments on Brooklyn Avenue in Milford. Federal investigators said between Bustillos and Suter, there are thousands of photos, maybe more, on seized flash drives and gaming systems. In other stories I read about this case, I think they did eventually find reason to believe that they were involved in a child trafficking, like sex pornography ring. So they were on the dark web. They were selling these photos and essentially helping other pedophiles look for children to rape. So this was in 2019. I believe they're still incarcerated. I don't know if they went to trial yet because it was one of the later.
Who knows if they're alive by now? Somebody probably tried to kill them at the least.
They're not dead, so I know that they. Ugh, this is a really bad one. Yeah. So
Well, one of the things that's most perplexing to me about the child pornography, particularly the videos, is how they're able to perform these acts and the children are crying, they're screaming. How can they not stop? You know what I mean? Like if you can continue doing that, you're a psychopath. And I mean that I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm using that in the textbook sense of the word. Lack of empathy,
yes, in the actual way that it's meant to be used. Also, I have a problem with your mother being in the same house as you while you're doing this and then saying she doesn't believe that he did it.
Yeah, it would seem like something's up. Yeah.
So it's just, I'm sorry, did you not see a little 5 or 8-year-old child be taken up to your son's room and then I'm assuming he wasn't quiet the whole entire time.
Yeah, there's
I
I
don't.
don't I don't mean to sound sexist by saying this, but there's so many crime cases involving women who are playing dumb. Oh, I had no idea he was killing people in
Right.
yeah, yeah, carrying
I didn't know.
heavy bags, leaking blood across the kitchen floor. I thought he was just making his own pasta courses up
Yeah, guys, so, I'm sorry. I have children. I will stick up for them to the ends of the earth. But
to a degree.
if you have a bunch of really satanic shit next to sex dildos with taping video camera shit set up in your room, I'm going to be asking some questions and looking further into that.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
not taking, oh, he just believes in Wiccan. He's not. First of all, that's not Wiccan.
No, no. And also, I had this other thought too. I was thinking, one of the most popular shows on TV is Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Are you a fan of that show?
It's funny you say that. I've watched a couple episodes and never really got into it. I'm more into true crime TV. So
Well, some
the scripted,
cases
the
are
scripted
loosely.
stuff I never really got into.
Well, I know that that show's very popular. Anything involving busting child sexual abusers is very popular. But
Yes.
what people don't realize is like the reality of doing that for a living is, so say they bust a guy for possessing child porn, and that there's like, say there's 100 videos. Well, the part of evidence gathering is that you have to watch every video and you
Yep.
have to document every single detail. You can't skip through anything. And so imagine having to watch 100 of those, and some of them will be horrifying, like the guys you were talking about. They're gonna sometimes those guys incorporate BDSM, and so not only is the child suffering from the rape, but they're being tortured by being whipped,
Oh,
and you have to write about it, and you're
what was the case? There was a case, a very popular case, and everyone's going to be screaming. Please leave it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about.
Catherine
But
Knight.
it was, no, it wasn't Catherine Knight. I know that I got yelled at by Catherine Knight, but it was I watched a documentary on it, and one of the detectives, it was a tape that they had to listen to of torture. Was it the Ken and Barbie killer?
Well, that might be it, because I'll tell you, they
Because
play,
they had recorded it, and then the tape was so bad that they actually now use that with new recruits when they want to be like detectives. They make them listen to this and say, if you can, and half of them walk, more than half of them walk out and never come back.
well, with the Bernardo case,
Yeah.
they did play the videotapes in court, but they didn't let anyone watch them. What they did was they just played the audio, and the audio alone was so disturbing. Like people were
Yes.
crying because, like, at least because I know, like, I think it was both girls. They cried out for mercy. I mean, he really
Cried for their mom. Yeah, that was
that was
so
hard.
that I believe in one of the real true documentaries I watched on one of the services I use. This investigator was talking about how he used that. I believe it was one of
I,
those recordings. I
I
just
don't
can't
I don't
imagine.
so I don't think it was those tapes though. I'm pretty sure they destroyed those tapes. It must have been.
Maybe, yeah, I was. I'll have to look into it. Or somebody, if you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
post it in the comments because I can't think of it right now.
Anyone who thinks like, oh, I'd love to work in law enforcement and bust pedophiles, well, do you
Yeah.
really want to look at those videos and those photos like day in, day out for years on end? Because I assure you, you're going to end up in a straitjacket if you do that. So that,
Well, yep. And like they said, their careers in that are very short-lived because they can only take so much. You can't unsee the shit you see.
well, just being a regular beat cop is hard enough.
Yeah.
That, I mean,
No kidding.
All
Thanks,
right.
police officers.
So now on to some badly needed comic relief.
Yay.
This is the last Walmart story. So
Okay.
this is, well, maybe just the last for now. Maybe there will be more in the future. So the headline is Woman Arrested After Hitting Walmart Shopper in the Face with a 10-pound log of meat. One Ohio woman was arrested and charged with assault due to her involvement in a physical fight that broke out at a local Walmart, says Ohio police. The South Euclid police said in a Facebook post that their officers were dispatched to the chip aisle of a Walmart after they received calls the two women had gotten into a physical altercation. So they had chips on their shoulders to match the shoes, right? But this wasn't the first incident between the two women. According to the Post, one of the women had a restraining order out against the other, dating back to when the two lived in the same duplex in University Heights, Ohio. The police did not share the details of the restraining order. However, they did explain the details of the intense fight that broke out in the chip aisle. When the two women made eye contact, the first woman threatened to beat the other woman and her 7-year-old daughter.
Oh,
So this
wow. Okay.
The assailant then lowered her mask and attempted to spit in the other woman's face, though she missed. Still upset, the assailant jumped into the victim's shopping cart and hit the woman in the face with a 10-pound log of prepackaged meat. I'm guessing probably ground beef
You think
or
I was
pepperoni.
thinking ground beef too.
Probably ground beef. Now that she jumped in the shopping cart, that's some intense rage. I
Yeah,
don't think I could do that. That sounds painful, but
it does.
the assailant was arrested and charged with assault and violation of a temporary protection order. Police shared in the Post that a criminal history check revealed a history of violent behavior, as well as multiple warrants out for her arrest. It was also shared that the assailant has a 5-year-old daughter who was turned over to another family member upon her mother's arrest. And the police said it's unknown what initially led to the beef between the two women. So
You are too much today.
maybe it was ground beef, right? Because sometimes I buy these like tubes of ground beef. And
Tube of meat. I do my.
they don't come in 10 pounds though. Can you buy?
I can't imagine what a 10-pound tube of. I'm gonna go to Walmart tomorrow looking for a 10-pound.
It
Yeah,
must
I didn't know they came that large, but okay.
it must have been frozen because how much damage could you do with like a floppy tube of ground beef, right?
No, you need a big solid one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it must have been frozen solid. You could do some damage with that, I guess.
Oh, good point.
Yeah,
Yeah, that could be a deadly weapon.
that's a deep grudge there. That's some Jerry Springer shit.
Love it.
Like
I'm liking this. I think you should add a segment every time with a story from Walmart.
Walmart stories. Walmart stories and Florida stories are always the strange.
I think we should. And the funny thing is, we both ended with an Ohio story, but we should have we should end on a light note with I'll find a good Florida story, and then you find a good Walmart story every week.
We'll try to find some combinations too.
Yeah. Like it. Okay. There's definitely that. I can go probably find one tomorrow and film it myself.
Yeah, exactly. If an alligator if somebody throws an alligator into a Walmart, then that's
Now we're talking.
Or takes one to Disney World and starts attacking children or something.
Good Lord.
Is
That
Disney?
actually happened. That was very sad. There was a little baby that got killed at Disney World. It was eaten by a gator.
Wow. So it wasn't like they have a zoo at Disney World, right?
No, it was in one of the it was around one of the hotels, and they have lakes and they have little beaches down by the lakes and stuff like that. So it was a little toddler that had walked down by the water and gotten attacked by the gator.
Oh man. Well, on that
He probably wasn't from Florida because we know not to let our kids near the water, but it's very sad.
Well, right. Well,
But
so
frozen meat stick, trouser trouts. What was your other one you had?
the trouser. Yeah, the men of
trouser trout. That was good, Morgan.
Yeah.
See?
And he urinated on the floor. Yeah.
Well, it was cold and he hadn't peed and probably was drunk. So
Had to use had a hankering for some trout.
He just wanted some trout, man. Or maybe he was trying to impress a lady. You never know.
Yeah, he's gonna put it inside his shorts and.
Who knew that Morgan Rector was a damn comedian?
Oh, you ain't seen the half of it.
Oh shit. Well, hopefully, I did better tonight.
Oh, you
people happy.
Did great.
Thanks, man. I really enjoy this. I think it's a lot of fun. You're a lot of fun. I hope everyone's having fun.
Well, I'm sure
has a great week.
Yes. Thank you very much, Rachel, for doing the show tonight, and thank everybody for listening.
My pleasure. Can't wait for next week.
Have a good night.
Bye.